Hello and welcome. This is another episode for the dive into the ACOTAR series. We're on season 2. I don't know what episode it is, but that is okay. It's at least episode 4. Let's get into it. This episode is going to be about the mortal queens and the king of Highborn. Here we are. It doesn't shock me that the king of Highborn is very good at speaking, and in fact at the end of the book I was like, he's not king for no reason. He's very good. The Night Court has made their reputation to be that they are monsters so much, and that's how everyone wants to defend it. Oh, they have to have the Night Court be bad because that's how they want to portray to everyone else that they're bad so no one messes with them. And it's like, okay, well that's a double-sided sword, because now everyone thinks you're bad, so when the king of Highborn, who's also bad, comes in, it's just like, I have changed my ways. I've changed my ways. They're really bad, and I don't like them. And because I don't like them, I'm gonna take them down. But they don't like you either. So, it's just a token of my goodwill. King! And he deserves that title. Because if you know anything about fairies, is you know they're really good at speaking. They are really good at speaking, tricking, alluring, and I'm like, dang, those humans got played. Those humans got played. Do I feel bad for them? No. I don't. But at the same time, I understand the mortal queens. And I understand that it might be the thought of how dare they not protect the borderlands from the fairies and not want to retreat or have people come to safety before time and kind of just waiting in limbo. But it's like, well, that's war. I feel, why would they defend an undefendable location that's going to be eaten in a matter of minutes? That does not make it makes sense to find a stronghold, and I want them to remove the civilians. However, I do also recognize that tips their hand. If they say, actually, we need everyone to vacate the area that is going to be attacked, that means, like, you can't let, like, you're telling them that you know that they're going to attack. And that you might potentially be able to fight them off. So, I understand that it is a very tricky and nuanced topic. Someone who is not nuanced in war is not going to have the best idea for military strategy. I don't know them, right? So, we can definitely say, someone who can barely read, has no education, with 2 sisters who has barely any education, and their education is being a woman. And in this time, unfortunately, what that means is, and I say being a woman, is how to, like, it's like Bridgerton. It's like, okay, how to take care of your home, how to hire staff, how to maintain a home, how to maybe pick a husband and make them happy, how to pick a husband for your children. Like, this is that is the education that they probably got. I mean, maybe, yes, also to read, very fortunately. But if we're talking military-wise, I don't expect any of them, especially since the dad was a merchant who didn't think about making one of his daughters a merchant. But besides that misogyny, I don't expect 3 people who had their education cut short, because all of their education got cut short, because Ness is just 2 years older than Feyre. So all of their education got short. I don't expect them to understand the nuances behind not tipping your hand, not showing, right, but also you don't defend an area that's undefensible. So I can understand that, and that is very sad, and I understand why they were upset. I'm just not going to get mad at the rulers for just very blatantly just being like, no. Because it is a war, and they do have to think of what that means for everyone else. And it's very harsh to say that, but we have to keep in mind they're fighting a war that was only won, barely, thanks to Jordan. And that war was fighting 2,000 years of enslavement. So they can't mess up here, or all of humanity will be enslaved again. That is the logic that they are using. And now some might say, well, they were allied with the High King and they wanted immortality. One of them wanted immortality. The other ones didn't necessarily want it. How do we know that? Because of how they were acting in that time. Only one of them wanted it. And as the Night Court knows, it's very easy to coup. Very easy to coup, as Cassian said it, but Reese said, don't worry, there wasn't enough time. Also, you have to keep in mind, why are they going to trust the court that they know has been trying to infiltrate their castle? And I'm like, Shannon, why are we bringing all this up? Right? How does this relate to the dive? And to that I say, mostly, it doesn't, apart from one way, which is soft power. I'm talking about diplomacy, right? And the Mortal Queens is the failing of soft power of the Night Court. That is what happens. What happened at the end of Aftermath is because the Night Court decided that they are going to keep people in line and be feared more than to be respected and have allies. And then they're gonna mope around that they don't have any allies because they betrayed everyone. Because, well, we're not holding hands in peace. That's what they're doing. So, Night Court has no allies. We see them trying to make an ally, but the problem is they have such a horrible rep that the High King of Fairy has a better reputation, and it was easier for him to pretend that he liked them than it was for him. You have to keep that in mind. Both High King and High Lord, very far away from each other, from the Mortal Queens, both of them had to soft power their way in to getting what they wanted. And you know what happened? The High King won. So far I would say that High King is up 1 point. What point are we talking about? The point of, I don't know, being a diplomat? Maybe he's still the king for a good reason. Not good reason for humans. But I guess he's very manipulative. Also, they couldn't figure out that was an obvious trap. Another point. What are these points? I don't know. I don't know. Charisma points. After season 2, we're introducing charisma points right now. The more points you get, the more charisma you have. And Reese, let's say -2 points for each failure. They try to get the orb, the crystal ball. And again, another lack of soft power from Reese, because he can't just go, nope, I'm the High Lord, I get to take what's mine. Haha. He has Asriel steal it. He can't take treasure. So he's not even that mean. In that instance, he's not even like, I get to take what I want, and you know what? This gift that was always yours, I don't like that you have it now. How about I take it? That is also showing meanness. But instead, no, he wants to sexually do things to Feyre that they did not previously discuss. And as someone pointed out, it's like, actually no, that is also assault. That was all, because that was not agreed to, and once it started, she couldn't say no. So, but also, Keo could not have called Rhys what he called Feyre. So I understand, but still, dang. Anyways, I'm pointing out because that's another lack of soft power. He has none. He has no soft power, and he also does not enforce the absolute power that he has. Absolute power meaning, like, you know, like in book 1, if Miranda told them to stop breathing, they would, because that's how much power she had, and that was a limited amount of the High Lord magic. Right, so absolute power is the complete and unrestricted authority held by a ruler, government, or entity, allowing the unilateral decision making without legal, constitutional, or political constraints. That is what a High Lord has. They have absolute power. Then you add magic into it, and they can tell you to stop breathing, and you must obey them. Right, so they have absolute power. So Rhys doesn't have soft power. He refuses to do it. And then we see that he gets outdone by the King of Highborn. So I don't know. Let's just say King of Highborn has +3 and Rhys has -3. I don't know. Let's make it fun. -3 to a modifier is tragic. But here we are. So he can't get anything that he wants. No one trusts him. Political adversaries he kills. He says this in Aftermath, that if anyone has a hint of being politically opposed to them, he'll just kill them, right? So, and obviously if he thinks that they might in the future, he sends them to the bad city. Well, if you live in horrible poverty, I'm sure you won't want change. And in absolute power, I'm sure change demanded by the people will be respected. So, and then he can just off them later. So we have this thing of, well, Rhys has he doesn't have absolute power. Because he doesn't have soft power, and he's not forcing anyone to do anything. Like a High Lord can. And he has no soft power. Which to me, I think that indicates, because he can't even keep the ring clipping. If he said, you will no longer do it and use the High Lord magic of the absolute power, there would be no more. Cassian does not have to go out and be like, oh, because he said it in its law. That is how it works. That is how it works at the beginning of this book and last book. So he does not have absolute power, and he certainly does not have soft power. Right? So, if High Lords have absolute power and Rhys does not have absolute power, Rhys is not a High Lord. And that's what that means. So either he's not using it, and he's willingly allowing horrible stuff to happen to women and girls, or he doesn't have it. That is what that means. In the next episode, we're going to go more into Rhys, and specifically that I don't think he is the High Lord. So, and I want to talk about potentially who might be the High Lord. So that is this episode. We have the King of Highborn +3 charisma, Rhys -3, Feyre can't think, quite literally her mind's been hijacked, but that we already knew that. hope you enjoyed this video, and goodbye.